Good morning, friends. I am Patty Elhoff, the author of Upcycle with Decoupage, and a viewer asked me if I could show her how to make a tip jar. And since this would work on any glass jar, not just for tips, I thought it would be a fun idea. So here's what we'll be working on for today. Here's our completed tip jar, and I did some decoupage and a transfer, which is very easy, and I'll show you how to do that. And this started out as one of these plain glass jars that you may have around your house. Spaghetti sauce came in this. And here are the steps we'll take in order to get this started. First, we'll want to paint this jar with chalk paint, and chalk paint is the absolute best paint to work with on glass. If you need instructions on how to remove the label, there's a link below to the perfect video for that. I'm using a roller brush because it makes the paint go that much farther. It spreads it much more evenly. You just press down for these indentations and up around the rim here. Just press a little bit harder and it'll go into all of those indentations, and we'll only need one. I turned the jar upside down and put it on a piece of parchment paper because chalk paint can go in the oven and it really cements the paint onto that glass. So I put it in a cold oven and I set the oven to 170 degrees. When my oven reached 170 degrees, I turned it off and I left the jar in there to cool. But I only left the jar in there for about a half an hour. The oven stays warm forever, so 30 minutes is fine. You do want to make sure your jar is cool before this next step. But you see these words in here, those are indentations in the glass. You don't have to do this, but I'm using this Liquitex modeling paste. And what I'm going to do is take this spatula, you can find these in the art department. Most of these supplies I have on my website. There's a link below. You can order everything right through my website, which goes through Amazon Prime, so you can get free shipping on most of the items. But I'm filling all of this in with this spatula and the modeling paste, and I'm just going to put this aside to dry. This modeling paste dries very quickly. I think I should have used a different type of spatula on this because it did leave some lines, and even though I sanded it down when it was all dry, it still left a few bumps in there, which worked fine for this project. But I did want to let you know you can skip this step or go ahead and use it. It might take a half an hour to dry. Once it's dry, I took a nail file for acrylic nails, and I do that because the nail file I have nail files all over the house, so I can just grab one. And it does pull away a little of the paint, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about that. Then when we're all done sanding, just take a damp cloth and wipe away all of the powder. I then used the roller brush again and just went around and painted over everything that I just sanded and those spots that I wore away. This image was from the Graphics Fairy, and I'm so excited I learned how to do this. You can print anything out from the Graphics Fairy on your home inkjet printer. Now, if you find something on the Graphics Fairy, or if you're making something on your own through Word or any of the programs you have, make sure you print the image out on your computer. Find out how to do a reverse or flip image if you're using script or any type of writing. This was just a regular copy. Be careful to cover it with, this is matte Mod Podge. Don't go over it too many times because it will run, but cover your image and then place it down over this jar. You want to place it down over the smoothest area. Now, the trick here is you really want to be patient. This could take 2 to 3 hours to dry. A lot of people feel safest when they just let it dry overnight. The chalk paint works perfectly for this. You can see I'm using a spoon here, but this transfers beautifully to chalk paint. Another reason why I'm using chalk paint. So let's just put this aside to dry for a few hours, and then I'll show you the next step. So this has been drying for a few hours. I took a very wet, rough rag that I have. Actually, I squeezed it out, but I did make this image nice and wet. And what I'm doing is rubbing away the paper. You can see that I've accidentally rubbed away a little bit of the chalk paint because I'm a little overzealous here. But a lot of people do this using their fingertip, but I was losing, I don't know, it just seemed like I was losing my fingerprint because I was scrubbing so much. So for me, I liked using this wet rag, and I just took all of the excess paper off, which just left the image that I got from the graphics fairy of this beautiful girl. Just touched up these areas with a little bit more chalk paint and smoothed them out with the roller brush. Then I wiped away any of the paper fuzzies that were left behind, and I wanted to frame this image. And this is a napkin that I separated, so there's just the one ply left. And I took a small artist's brush and dipped it in water, and I went around certain images that I wanted to use just around her face to frame her and surround her. So I pulled the image away once I wet it. And then to get a little bit closer to just the images on the napkin, I wanted to pull away some of this napkin. So I painted off the areas with a wet paintbrush. I just put my finger down where I wanted the image to stay, and with the wet brush pulled away that napkin. So I'm still using the matte Mod Podge, and I put a little bit of it on my brush and right in the area just where I wanted to add the napkin. And then I placed the napkin down. Now I'm going to use our trusty saran wrap once I place this down, because the saran wrap is going to remove any wrinkles. I'm pressing this down lightly with my finger, but the saran wrap helps to really secure the napkin down. So you want to pull it tightly around your piece. You also want to make sure you use a brand new piece of saran wrap for each napkin that you decoupage around here. So I'm going to continue this process all around the frame to frame the image that I have there. Decoupage glue. I'm using a fresh piece of saran wrap again. The napkin part that I want, gonna remove some of this excess napkin around so that the transfer image shows through. And I'll decoupage this down. I'm just removing a little bit more excess there. And I'm going to continue framing this picture, but I'm also going to go around the rest of the whole jar and finish decoupaging it this way. And when I get up to this area around the lid, I'm not getting too concerned about that because I am going to cover that with an embellishment. So I am decoupaging up near the top. And also as you go around the jar, what I was doing was tearing out images to fit in certain places so that it didn't look like one big mishmash of a pattern. I was actually trying to get little bits of, it looks like these are lilacs and roses. So I tried to just go around areas and fill them in as I needed. Now I put the whole jar aside to dry, and once it dried, I wanted to put one more coat of Mod Podge over the whole surface. And this is the matte Mod Podge, and I covered the whole surface and then put this aside to dry. And that I put it aside for maybe a half an hour to 45 minutes. Now that the Mod Podge has dried, I took this triple thick, and this is an acrylic brush, or a brush specifically for acrylics, as opposed to a sponge brush for the triple thick. The girl that was asking me to do this video said she works in a makeup department, and I know she needs a lot of gloss to make this stand out. So I'm using the highest gloss I can, which is the triple thick top coat. And I'm putting some glitter on here, not too much, but enough that it's going to make it stand out under those lights that are in the makeup department. And I'll let this dry. Now, after I let this dry, it took about a half an hour. I put it near a heat vent because I could. And now that it's dry, I took some embellishments and I went around the top of it. And you can experiment with whatever you want. I'll have some of these on my website for you to purchase just in case you need some ideas. You can certainly get them in the craft store in the department where all of those embellishments are for jewelry, and scrapbooking is a good place to look. And these are just some examples, but I'm going to add these around the piece to just finalize it and make it look a little bit prettier. And here is our completed jar. I wanted to come outside into the sunshine and show you what this looked like because I definitely wanted to make it sparkle a little bit. That way it will stand out for people who you want to tip and they'll ask you, wow, what is that? That's really pretty. And then you can just politely say, oh, that's my tip jar. So guys, don't forget, I am also on Facebook. The name of my page is Upcycle with Decoupage. Please feel free to contact me, comment on this video. If you go over to my Facebook page and click like and follow, you'll get a notice from Facebook every week when I put a new video out. Thank you so much for subscribing. That helps me out more than you'll know. And I will see you guys next week with another video. Thanks again. Bye-bye.